Welcome back to the channel. I'm Jason with Longbottom Farm, and today we're going to talk about can you make money with pigs, and I'm going to give you all of our 2023 numbers, our expenses, our income. I'm going to break it down into cost per pig, how much feed per pig, and basically all the numbers that we use to make decisions on the farm, and we'll see how we did. But before we do that, we're gonna get a couple chores done. We're gonna go move the cattle to a new paddock. Today's rotating day. Get the chickens done, and then we'll sit down and go over our pork numbers for 2023. So stay tuned and let's get these chores done first. All right, we've got, as you can see, our hay bale hooked up in the back. You might be wondering, why would you take a hay bale if you've got your cattle on grass and you're rotating? Reason being is that their manure is very runny right now. When you take cattle that have been getting hay all winter and put them back on green grass, the water content of what they're eating goes way up, and they're not able to absorb all that water, so a lot of that's going to come out the back end. Also, just it's a much higher protein. When they're on the green grass versus getting the hay, the protein content's just a lot higher, and that increases the transit time. So for that reason, you don't want those runny stools. So what we do is, while we're rotating, we still put out hay and try to transition them to grass. I guess there's other ways to do it. I don't know if putting them out on pasture, bringing them into a dry lot, making them eat the hay. That's the thing about the hay, is sometimes they won't eat it, even when they're having this runny manure. But we still put one out every day, every other day, and we'll do that for a couple weeks, just to make sure that they have the fiber they need to help try to bind things up a little bit more, and just to transition over grass rather than a abrupt change in their diet. They're doing well, and we're just trying to make sure that we're giving them everything they need: minerals, water, hay for the transitioning on pasture, and then rotating them to good pasture every few days. Let's move them over, and then we'll tackle chickens, and then we'll go into our 2023 pig numbers. Right, and there we go. So they're in what was the front line, now became the back line, and then we set our new line up. We'll get their minerals moved over, and then we'll head up, get chickens done, and get to the meat and potatoes of the video. All right, let's check on the baby birds real quick. These will be coming out to pasture in a week. Starting to feather out, and like I say, probably next 4 days to a week we'll be bringing them out. I just need to check the weather, but they're feathering out really good. We've got 100 in here, and I think we lost 4 chicks on days 1 through 3. Other than that, everyone else has done well. Probably need to grab some more shavings on the next trip, so we'll do that. But otherwise, they're eating, everybody's healthy. They're looking good. We're gonna grab eggs real quick, feed these chickens. I think they're waiting on me. And you can see it's getting a little barren back here. We need to move this, but on the far side of the egg mobile, it's sitting on blocks because the tire went flat, so I need to go up and get that fixed. So we'll do that in the next day or so. But let's get these chickens done, and let's go talk about, did we make money this year raising pigs? So, not a bad haul of eggs. So we got probably 125 to 150 in there. All right, we are pretty much done chores. We'll put all this stuff away, get some coffee, and let's go over some pig numbers. Well, chores are done, and now we're gonna dive into a question that's at the heart of many small farms, and that is raising pigs on your farm profitable? So we've crunched our numbers for 2023, and I'm gonna share them all with you, income, expenses, and then we'll talk about some caveats and some different things. Speaking of some caveats, before we get started, something you need to know is that I'm gonna give you my numbers, but everyone's numbers are gonna be different. It depends on a lot of your style. First of all, do you have a stationary system for your pigs, or are you rotating them? Rotating them is gonna be more labor. Having a stationary area is gonna cost you more. So things like that are gonna be different for everyone and are gonna change everyone's numbers. Are you using just regular feed? Are you using non-GMO feed? Are you using organic feed? That again is going to change your numbers. Are you paying someone to move them? Your labor cost. Do you have a permanent infrastructure already in place, or do you need to build one, or you're not going to use a permanent infrastructure and just use mobile fencing? So there's so many things that go into it that determine what your profitability is going to be, what your expenses are going to look like, and then also on the income side, how much are you charging for your product? What cuts are you selling? Are you doing wholesale versus retail? Things like that, again, are going to change numbers. So again, this is just our experience, but I hope it'll give you sort of a ballpark figure of if you're raising pigs on your farm, what you can do. I'll go ahead and also say that we can do a lot better. I'm going to get into that at the end, but our numbers and having the data can really tell you things about your operation, and we'll talk about that in a few. So first, let's talk about why raise pigs. Obviously, for profit, we're a farm, we want to make money, but does it fit into your regenerative system? For us, we try to do everything regeneratively, meaning we try to leave things better than what we found them and make the soil better, make the land better. Pigs can do a great job with that. They will till up the soil, which is some disruption, but they turn soil over, they allow moisture to get in, they can break up compacted spots, and then they pee and poop all over the place. And that fertilizer, pig poop, is some of the best fertilizer you can get. If you've had pigs, you know that wherever they go a lot more, that's where a lot of stuff is going to grow first, if you give it a rest. So pigs can definitely fit into a regenerative system. If you're worried about tearing up, you can wring their nose. We've never done that. We tend to believe a pig is a pig and let the pig be a pig. Now that said, being sustainable is not just about the environment and the earth. You as a farm have to be sustainable, because if you're not sustainable, then you're not able to do these regenerative things that are going to make things better. You're going to be out of business. Without having some kind of financial viability, your goal or mission to be regenerative and sustainable is non-existent, because you can't do it. So we view our pigs as a big part of the regenerative things we try to do on our farm, but also a big part of making our farm sustainable, meaning being profitable and allowing us to continue to do these regenerative things. Our ultimate goal here at Longbottom Farm is to have a farm that not only survives but thrives, but also healing the earth and making it better for generations, hopefully here on this farm, to come. Now, let's get into some numbers. That's, I think, what you want to know. First, let's talk about some expenses. I'm going to give you some overall expenses, and then we'll break everything down. And then after this, we'll talk about income, and then we'll talk about everything as a whole. So first, on the expense side, so for 2023, we raised 38 pigs. These were piglets to somewhere around 12 weeks or so when we bought them. So all small, just weaned or had been weaned up to a month, I believe, was the oldest pigs. And we spent a total of $21,823. Now, that $21,800 includes feed. That was a big part of it. It includes the butchering cost. It includes disposables, like if we had to put on wood chips, if we brought hay bale in, fly paper, and things that we won't be able to use again. To break it down a little further, specifically, we spent $7,869 on feed. That was for the year. We spent $9,899 in processing and butchering. We sell retail, therefore it has to go through either a state inspected or a USDA inspected facility. And those were really the two big expenses that we had. The other expense would be the cost of the goods themselves, or the piglets, and we averaged around $100 for each pig that we bought. Then the disposables are kind of spread out between the pigs, but that was a couple $100 overall for that. Now, something I'm not including in these expenses is the infrastructure itself. And the reason being is we have a permanent infrastructure. So basically we have a permanent fence that's electrified. We have some cattle panels, hog panels that are in place. and we rotate our animals. It's a 7 to 8 month on, and then it gets a break for 5 to 6 months. Now, if you were considering just rotating them in a larger pasture, you still may have some kind of perimeter fence, but then you'd also have netting, your electric charger, and some different things that would be a little different. Mobile structures, pig feeders. The reason we don't include this infrastructure in the cost is because it's not really part of the year-to-year cost. When you buy a lot of this stuff, it actually becomes an asset in your business, meaning you can sell it for money. That, combined with the fact that this infrastructure doesn't apply to just 1 year of pigs, we may use this over 10 years, so that cost is amortized over 10 years or spread out over 10 years. So we leave the infrastructure out and basically look at the things that we're gonna have to pay every single year. That's feed, that's buying the pigs, that's processing cost, to get an accurate figure of what it's costing us to raise a pig, how much we're making and such. So that's the expense side. Now let's get to the income side. And I'm gonna give you some income numbers, but don't tune away right after you get this, because there's something else I really need to add that makes the numbers totally change. So for 2023, as far as total income generated or gross, we made $27,191. And that includes, we did about $18,500 in just direct sales to customers, that's retail cuts. We did $6,300 in shares, so discounted bulk. We have a 1/4, a half, and a whole hog package that we do. And then we did $2,400 from wholesale, and that's typically about 30% off of our retail price that we charge. Now, you're probably saying, wow, you made $27,000. Costed you $21,000 on 38 pigs, so you made $6,000 in profit, which is nothing to scoff at, but that would be a lot of work. Now, the big caveat here is that we still have $12,000 worth of pork in our freezers that you see behind me here. So we just processed a big bunch about 4 months ago, so a lot of this pork hasn't sold yet. So you have to factor that into the cost of this year. It's just going to carry over into next year. It's money in the bank, you just got to be able to sell it. So you have to consider not just what your numbers are for the year, but the inventory that you know, all that butchering cost, the $9,000 that we talked about, a lot of that's still in the freezer yet here and just hasn't moved yet. Now that we've talked about that, let's look at the total numbers and let's break down the cost per pig, feed, and etc. So first, with 38 pigs, we raised 38 pigs this year. Our feed cost basically per pig was about $210. Our total cost per pig, this is the feed, but also figuring in the butchering cost, the cost of the disposables and such, totaled $574 per pig. Now, our gross income per pig changes a little bit because I initially gave you a figure of $27,000 that we made as income, but you have to also add that $12,000 that's in inventory that's still yet to go out. So all in all, for what we have processed, the expenses that we have paid this year, we have $39,191 worth of pork that's either half been sold and that still needs to be sold. So if you break that down, that technically means we're doing a gross of about $1,100 per pig, meaning for every pig we sell, we bring in about $1,100. When you minus the cost of $574, then you get a potential income for each pig of about $450. So that's profit on the pig. So that $450 is taking your net income and basically dividing it by 38. So not bad. Now, you have to figure in labor. That's a big expense that really varies for everybody. It can be very dependent on how you're doing it. Are you rotating them? Are you in a stationary area? Do you have large feeders? Are you feeding them every day? And for us, we averaged about 15 minutes per day. And that sounds like just a little bit, like really 15 minutes? But you have to think about it. In our system, we have huge 1-ton feeders. So we do typically about a ton in the feeder at a time. And that means we don't have to mess with feed generally for a week or two, just depending on how many pigs we have in there. We set our watering system up. It's an 85-gallon tote, and we fill that up, and that'll last at least a couple days. So there's days that really I just walk over and I eyeball the pigs, and that's it. I'm not really doing any work. I'm not moving anything. I'm not filling any feed. I'm not doing anything. And then there are days when you do have the feed that you have to put it in, you have to refill waters, you have to clean the water out sometimes, you have to add hay, straw. So then there are days it may take an hour and a half. So the 15 minutes per day just is kind of what, for our system, is what it sort of averages out to. And then we did that times 9 months. That's about the time, longest time typically, that we would raise a pig, or the number of pigs that we do. That works out to 9 months, 15 minutes a day, and paying, we said $20 an hour. We're doing it all ourselves right now, so we're not paying anyone, but we went in and approached it as if we were paying someone $20 an hour. So $20 an hour, 15 minutes a day for 9 months comes out to $1,350 in labor. Now again, this is gonna vary depending on what your system is by a lot. You may do a lot less, you may do a whole lot more, but that's what we come up with. And figuring that in, then that makes our cost per pig, how much we're spending per pig, about $609. And our profit is about $421. So not too far off. And it also tells us that, at least from our farm perspective, with our eggs, broilers, we'll have turkeys later, cattle, rotating them every 2 to 3 days, that hopefully we're going to be in a position at some point to maybe try to hire someone to do some of this work so that we can spend more time making these videos, which I love, and focusing more on marketing and growing the farm from a business standpoint. The gist of it is, if you count labor, all the expenses we've talked about and everything, raising 38 pigs, we made a profit, including what's in our inventory, of just over $16,000. And while there's some days that are really crazy, that's not too bad. Now, let's talk about being profitable and what that means, and based on these numbers that I've given you, how could we improve these numbers? Hopefully you'll find this beneficial to your farm. Again, having the numbers really helps you break it down into what you can do better, where your money's going, and how much your operation's costing. So one, our feed efficiency. Can we enhance that? We did that some this year by getting away from the 50-pound bags and going to the 1-ton totes. Actually, we order it by the ton, but then we get them to put it in half-ton totes. Just makes it easier to pick up with the tractor. And that really helped us save us a lot of money. It ended up giving us about 2 free bags per 40 bags that we use. And that in itself, over the course of a year, will save you a lot of money. So it's just a matter of having the infrastructure, having a tractor big enough to lift 1,000 pounds, up high enough to get it into a feeder is the main thing. But improving your feed efficiency, especially with pigs, because that's really where, other than butchering, that's where your biggest cost is, will really help you be more profitable on your farm. And we're looking at ways that we can do that, maybe doing something where they're not wasting as much feed. You saw in a couple of our other videos, and I'll put a video up top about how to raise pigs. We've done a video on that. You can see our whole system. But our feeder was wasting some feed as well. The cone in the middle had rusted out. And so just making sure you can be as efficient as you can with your feed will really help in your bottom line and make you more profitable. Reducing costs through innovation. That's one thing. I started out farming, let's buy this, let's buy that, that's perfect for that. And you start to realize that there's a solution for everything in farming, but it's like you're never done. You're always buying these solutions. So there comes a point where you just got to learn to do some DIY, learn how to fix some things on your own, maybe do your own fencing instead of paying someone. Again, these are skills that can easily be learned. I started, and I'm gonna have a video coming out on this soon, but I started farming at 43. First generation farmer, never had anything bigger than a dog prior to farming. My parents weren't farmers, they were in healthcare, and I literally had no experience. And I learned pretty much everything from YouTube, Greg Judy books, Joel Salatin books, and just podcast, anything I could get my hands on about farming, I went after. And when I look back at that now, 7 years later, how when I started, I was buying a lot of stuff, and then as I learned more stuff, I just started doing a lot more on my own. Even if I didn't know how to do it, that's part of the journey, is learning how to do it. And it saved us so much money. And it's one of those things that just as a farmer, if you're gonna be profitable, you have to wear many hats. You're a farmer, you're a marketer, you're a mechanic, you're an electrician, you're everything. And it's just, there's some things, actually electrical I hire out because I'm not comfortable with that. That's one of the things, if you mess up, it won't be good. But
you can say that again.
For the most part, just learning, how to put in fencing, how to build structures and cut wood and doing different things. It's something you'll really want to learn. Yes, it takes some of your time, but at the same time, when you really learn to do it, it'll save you a lot of money in the long run. So just learning how to do more DIY stuff on the farm, and especially as it relates to your pigs, will save you a lot of money. Increase direct sales. That's another way to fix your profit. You know, value adding. With pork, you can do so much. We do sausages, we do brats, we do smoked products. And these are all, what I say value added, is in addition to your normal cuts, like say your Boston butt, your pork chops. There's things done to these cuts, like smoking and stuff, it costs an additional extra, but then we charge extra for that. So just finding ways to increase what you're already doing. Charcuterie is something we'd love to get into. A lot of our processors aren't doing that yet, but that would be something that you could value add. So looking for ways to do that, looking for more outlets to sell your products, all of that will, again, help make you more profitable. Expand your market reach. Again, we started doing some of that this year with wholesale. So we've got a store down in our town that we sell to. We've got a place in Charlottesville that we sell to, and these are wholesale accounts. Again, we sell at a discount. It's about 30% off of our retail, but they tend to buy in bulk as well, so it's much bigger orders, so it helps us move more product, and by doing that, makes it worth the discount. Selling shares. Again, we discount those shares obviously when people are buying in bulk, but again, it's moving more product and still factors into you being more profitable. So just finding different ways to reach different markets is another way to bump up your bottom line. Now, I'd add one caveat to that. Just make sure that you have direct sales as well to compensate that. You can do just wholesale, but again, then you start having to really bulk your numbers up. That's more of a numbers game and a volume game, meaning you gotta have a lot higher volume to make that work for you. So retail is still our bread and butter, but having a few of these extra accounts definitely help the bottom line. Optimizing your labor cost. Again, this is another thing that'll really help you save money and make that net profit number a lot bigger. Finding ways to automate your water, bigger bulk systems so that you're not having to do feed every day. If you're rotating animals, you know, just coming up with an easier way to move your netting or a different strategy that still allows them to rotate with less work. A lot of the fun in farming is figuring out these, I don't want to say shortcuts, but efficiency routes that allow you to do what you're doing, but to do it better, to do it faster, and to do it cheaper. So just looking at your whole operation and seeing where can you save time, where can you cut down on time and still get the same job done is another important factor in making you a more profitable pig farmer. Marketing and branding, that definitely helps you move more product. We use Facebook, Instagram, we have YouTube. Our main hub for everything is our website, and that's where we try to funnel everyone to. That's where the sale is gonna happen, but using social media to promote your farm, to show people what it is you do, why you're different from those in the stores, and how you differentiate your products from others is a great way to bring in more customers, get people to your website that'll buy more from you, and in turn, boost your bottom line. And finally, something all farms should do is evaluate and adapt. What that means is, just like I'm giving you numbers here on our pig farming operation, you want to know all of your numbers. So when you go to the butcher, make sure you get, all the numbers, even if that means you have to write down every single cut you get back. Keep all those numbers, because then you know how much you paid for processing, you know how much you got back, what you got back. And having all these numbers just really allows you, once you get them all together, to see what's profitable, what's not, what's working. Like again, with our operation, our retail is much bigger than our wholesale, but our wholesale and shares brought in a substantial amount of extra money that we wouldn't have if we only did retail. And I wouldn't really know that unless I had kept up with all these numbers. So we use Square for a lot for our market. I'm not sponsored by them, and there's other systems that do it, but Square does help you keep track of what you sell through Square. Then we use Stripe on our website for credit cards. And then there's cash, there's checks, those go through our bank account. So it's a lot of things to keep up with. You have to come up with your own system to do that. But again, having all of those numbers can really make a difference in your pig operation. It's a good time to sit down, like my wife and I will sit down and look at these numbers and then just talk about, okay, feed, what can we do? And start making lists of how this year we can do things better but cheaper and hopefully be more profitable next year. Not necessarily by raising more pigs, but by getting better at the things we're already doing. If you want to know more about how we raise pigs in our entire operation from start to finish, then you'll want to